We call the meeting to order. Comments from the public? How do you know? Just kidding. Okay. Let's go into closed session, the matter of real property negotiations. November 14th. Council, do you want to do a readout, please, of closed session?
Tonight's meeting gave direction to staff pertaining to certain property for roadway widening and received an update from potential litigation counsel.
The end.
I wish. And other than that, there are no reportable actions that were taken.
Thank you. Okay, Dan, will you please lead us to pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please stand for Brett. Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Let's come to the Lord in prayer. Gracious God, we come tonight asking for wisdom over these council members who you have entrusted with authority over the city and the well-being of the citizens who call it home. And Lord, I just ask that you would give them favor tonight to understand and discern the needs of the city and to operate well within their authority, God, as you would lead them. And so, Father, help them tonight and help them to help us. For we ask that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dean Euchre. Here. Gary Barton. Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Vice Mayor Leo Zuber.
Here.
Mayor Mike Restuccia.
Present. Public discussion. This is the time if anybody in the audience has something to talk about that's not on the agenda. Please come up to me. If it's on the agenda, we'll talk about it at that time. But if you got something that's not on there, please come to the mic and state your name. Yes, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Demo Aguilar. I'm a field representative for the Northern California Carpenters Union. I'm here tonight to request the city adopt labor standards and pre-qualification language for future projects. One labor standard is the use of a state-sponsored apprenticeship program, which prevailing wage jobs are mandated to at least request. Construction apprenticeship programs can be a better option than going through the traditional college for some. With NorCal Carpenters Union courses being accredited, the graduated journeyman has only a few classes left to actually obtain a construction management degree. This is also made further appealing because our apprentices graduate with zero debt and a great paying skilled trade career. Construction apprenticeship programs are a proven escalator to the middle class for tens of thousands of construction workers every year. Another great labor standard would be the requirement that contractors provide health care. Approximately 1 out of 4, or 26% of construction workers in California lack health insurance. That statistic is 2.5 times the rate for all California workers. These workers that lack health care are forced to rely on emergency rooms for their medical needs, which are already so overly taxed in our communities. Once we have policies that require contractors to offer their construction workers a fair healthcare program, it will raise standards in the construction industry, creating a level playing field for employers who already offer healthcare. It's my hope that we can schedule a sit so we can further discuss these matters, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll leave my card over here for you guys later.
Do that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. We can take these both at the same time. October 10th and November 8th.
I'll move to approve.
You have a motion.
Well, second.
Second. Discussion.
Get my thing up there. Come on. Sorry.
It's okay. All right, passes 4-0. Approval of the agenda as posted.
Nothing to pull. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
I'll second.
Okay, hold on. Here we go.
We don't get to do that very often. Thanks, Leo.
Okay, so I guess that approves the consent calendar too. Do we need to go through that exercise?
Well, my motion
It wasn't? Okay, approve the consent calendar then? We have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Now we move on to number 2, ordinances. First reading and introduction. This ordinance amends chapter 10.56, restrictions on recreational vehicles, parking in residential areas to include language prohibiting the use of recreation vehicles as dwelling units on residential lots. Mr. Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. Just really briefly, staff was approached by the Code Enforcement Division here, asking for some help in clarifying living in RVs. They had some issues with people living in RVs, and we are able to address it in our current ordinance, but it's very kind of around a gray area that it's in there with. So we were asked to kind of clarify that with our RV ordinance, and so we did make some amendments to that. And we also clarified kind of the permit parking for RVs as well. That was in the ordinance. So those are the 2 changes that are in front of you. I was hoping we'd never have to open up this ordinance again after we dealt with this for, seems like 8 months or something, over a year or so ago. But so that is the recommended amendments that are in front of you tonight.
Okay, well, I know there's questions and comments.
I have one. As I read that, there were 2 paragraphs that were added. The first paragraph says that you can't have dwelling unit or a RV on your private property and use it as a dwelling unit. The second paragraph says, if you're gonna use it as a dwelling unit, in effect, it has to be on the street. Is that true? Because if I had somebody from out of town that had an RV and they brought it to visit me, as I read that ordinance, if they park it in the driveway, they can't use it. But if they park it on the street and get a permit, they can. That just seems kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, that's not the way that's supposed to be. I'm trying to read that through here right now. I don't necessarily see where that section says anything like on that part of it. It doesn't really talk about where it can be parked. If they are going to use it for visitor parking, they have to get a permit from the police department. It could be either on the street or in a driveway or on the property.
But that's not how I read it, because A says if it's on private property, you can't use it that way. B says you can if it's on the street. If I can let my son-in-law use his trailer on private property, shouldn't it should say that. I don't know how, but to me, as I read that now, it's not clear.
Yeah, the first sentence A says exactly what Leo's saying.
Right. We can work on clarifying that.
So you're under the first new paragraph or the second?
No, the first one.
The first section. But the exceptions under C, RVs for which there's a visitor permit, is not subject to those rules.
But the second paragraph says you get the visitor permit if it's on the street. It doesn't say on property or the street. It says on the street. I just think it needs to be clear so that we don't subject his people or the code enforcement people to arguments all the time. Because that's where these start. If some neighbor doesn't like what they see, so they want something done. And if they take the time to read this, I'd love to get into an argument with somebody about this.
Yeah, it says you can't do it at all unless it's in a lawfully operated mobile home park, travel trailer park, or some other park. So, like Leo says, if it's in a driveway, somebody cannot
Yeah,
sleep in it.
like Daniel's point there. So you've got this section 56070 is basically you cannot live in an RV. That's prohibiting anybody living in the RV. Then you get down to that last section there, C. There is an exception that kicks you into the next section, which is section 080, and that talks about getting a permit to park for like a 14-day period if you're visiting somebody. It doesn't say, doesn't say in that section that you have to be parked on the street.
That's the only example they get. I would like to see in the first paragraph that you can't do that unless it's subject to the conditions in the second one.
Okay, we can add
Yeah.
on clarifying some of that.
Yeah, because if, yeah, because
Just
you don't want
something to
people to
tie
ha-
the two of them together, because right now as I read it, they stand alone.
yeah, you don't want to have people have to
Yeah.
read the whole thing back and forth and revert to different things. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't disagree with it.
Right.
I'm one of these people that I don't like arguments if I can avoid them, but in the writing of the policy, that's all.
Okay. Well, that's because you sleep in yours in your driveway. So I have,
Right.
right, yeah. Yes.
For the second
Yes.
reading, yeah.
So Ken, I had a few questions because one of the concerns I have, it doesn't address in here where you can park on the street. We were just having a discussion about that. By law, which I think we need to change, you can park all the way up to the end of a corner, an RV. Well, a car, and I've seen almost accidents happening, and there was one that Leo was just talking about that did happen. If you're too close, there ought to be some 30 feet from a corner or something like that, because otherwise it's an accident waiting to happen. And then we used to have something that said if you run cords, they have to be covered so people don't trip over them. Where's all that at?
That's in section 080. It talks about, should be talking
Wait,
about.
where's it at?
Section 080.
Oh, okay.
Um,
No, that's the change section. Oh, 80. You talking about the new section?
yeah, I thought it was in that section there. It should be in that section there. It wasn't our old one, I believe.
Well, I didn't see it. If it's in there, I missed it.
And there's some conditions, B1 and 2, B2, 5B2. That's just B2. Public safety management.
But it doesn't say anything about you have to be so far from a corner.
No, it doesn't give the specifics, but it's a little more broad.
Right. But I see when cars are parked too close to a corner, it's almost an accident. Wait, well, people swerving out of the way. Imagine an RV sitting there.
All right, we can add to some of that about the cords and such. That's basically gets into the chief of police has to approve any visitor permits that this is talking about.
Right, but if somebody pulls the ordinance, they ought to be able to read what the requirements are. Got to block the cords. You can't park within 20
Right.
feet of a corner, whatever the rules are. I'm just suggesting it ought to be in there,
Okay, can add that.
unless the people have objection to it.
I guess like at your house on a corner, if you had a distance requirement from a corner, you'd be parking in you'd exclude certain corner lots probably from being able to park. You go put a 30-foot trailer along a 50-foot lot with a 20-foot clear from a corner or something, you wouldn't be able to park it on your lot.
Get a smaller RV.
Well,
I mean,
that's fine.
but I mean, I've almost seen accidents happen. And I think we ought to probably,
I don't disagree.
some people aren't
So are
necessarily
you talking-
reasonable when they
Are
park.
you talking about if a visitor gets a visitor permit to park an RV? Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring to? Because the chief of police does have discretion on when they come in and get a permit to where they can park. If they are gonna park where it's a public safety, if the street's too narrow, in the opinion of the police department for a safety perspective, or even like too close to a corner that where someone's gonna be staying in that thing, it gives up to 14 days for a visitor permit if someone's gonna be staying in an RV. The chief of police can deny that permit.
they will actually go and show you where it's going to be located on the street.
They should, when they come in to get a visitor permit, they should be telling the police department through their application process for where they're gonna park the RV for the visitor permit.
So I'm going to be 20 feet from the corner. They're going to be that specific?
They can be, I mean, if that's what they're wanting to know, if they're on a corner, they can ask that.
But they may not.
Well, that's at the police department when they're reviewing the application process on it.
Why not just put it in the ordinance?
We can.
And I don't know if it ought to be 10, 15, 20, I don't know, but something safe. I mean, a car itself too close to the corner is dangerous. You know, you get an RV that's up high, you can't even see around that. I mean, that's my.
One thing
suggestion.
that might help as I sit and listen, because I understand his thing, is if we could get something that shows us what it is that the police department considers when they issue that
That would
permit.
be good enough.
I can comment on the permit if I'm allowed to.
Sure.
It does say at no time shall a public safety hazard be permitted to exist on or across any city street, public sidewalk, or right of way. So I read that to mean if I did approve a permit and someone pointed out there was a safety issue and it was parked and people could not see, then I could revisit that and possibly revoke that permit.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if somebody comes around the corner and gets in an accident? Oops, you were too close and the accident's already happened.
But when they do submit the visitor parking permit, they do put a location, but it's never, what I've seen, I've only done two of them since I've been police chief. It's never been that documented of 20 feet from the intersection or whatnot. It's not that, it's always been in residential areas that are obviously not a hazard, in my experience.
Yeah. I'm just bringing it up because I've seen some accidents almost happen, but whatever.
Well, I'll reiterate what I just said. I would like to see what the issues are that are considered. I'm not asking for necessarily how they make a decision, but Mike listed 3. Whether the street's too narrow, do they put, because I agree with the part about the cords. I drive a lot around town and there's a trailer parked on the street and there's a couple of cords running across the sidewalk, not taped down, nothing. And sometimes I think we're a little loosey-goosey about letting people use their trailers and stuff around town, and that eventually, we're gonna have some people sitting out here because something went wrong. And I'd rather get it a little more ironed out and concrete if we're gonna do this.
Well, then also, people have those pop-outs that come out 4 or 5 feet in the street.
Yep.
And at nighttime,
Yeah,
you could run it.
I got a guy down the street, when that trailer is at his house, that
He
thing
pops
is
it out.
always 2 or 3 feet out. And he puts cones, but man, you come around that curve just right,
So-
you're gonna take it out.
So to answer a little bit of your questions, if you go back to section 060 of the ordinance, it's not being changed. There is a section there about parking on the street. So that applies to both. If somebody's getting a visitor permit,
What section?
060.
Right above it.
So if somebody's getting a visitor permit and wants to park out there as a visitor and stay in the RV, or if it's even just somebody bringing their RV home to get loaded to go
Yeah.
somewhere, there's a whole section in there that talks about parking on the street. And it talks about slide outs at no time shall any slide out component of recreational vehicle be utilized or extended upon or over any public sidewalk or right of way.
Right above.
It does also talk about the cords and the hoses and such. So that would apply no matter if they're applying for a permit for a visitor permit or not. A lot of these things that you're seeing, I think, around town, Leo, is people that bring their RVs home to load them, and then they're running cords and such. That just gets into more of a code enforcement issue that's going to have to be looked at on a more regular basis. It's already in the code that way. It's just
I'll take the comment, but I will tell from personal observation, I've seen trailers for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, sitting in front of a house with some of those conditions existing.
and those are code enforcement
Yeah,
issues.
we need,
Maybe they have that permit if they're staying that long too.
well, but that's what I say, that still doesn't mean that they can be there with an unsafe condition
Right.
in place. Somehow that needs to be looked at. Not
And
seeing how.
it's already, and it's so some of the stuff's already addressed in the current ordinance. That part that hasn't been changed. But
Got it.
Where did you get the 14 days from? Just curious.
That's been in our code for a long time. There's a lot of other jurisdictions that utilize kind of same timeframes on that too, as we've done research. But that's been obviously, I think, even before my time here at the city, it's always had like a 14-day
14 calendar days,
Yeah, it's like a 2-week
What other
period.
kind of days are
work days. Business days, different than calendar days. I was just curious how you got that. Okay. Okay, so what
there? Are you
action?
ready for a motion?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Now, what do? We waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance, but I'm gonna put the controller on there that the issues raised about tying the two together be addressed when it comes back. So
This
moved.
is the first reading. First reading again?
No. Bring it back for second reading and adoption. Yeah. That's my motion.
That's a motion.
I'll let Jane and Lisa figure it out.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You need to bring me up, Hunter, please.
And you wanna go camping?
Let's just do a voice. Oh, wait.
Oh.
You got it? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay. Reluctant, yes. Discussion items. Thank you, Ken. Discussion items. Financial audits fiscal year 2022, 2023. This is just a preliminary. We're actually coming back in December for final approval?
Correct.
Okay. That's you.
That's it? No. So this is the
Next.
time that we discussed the draft audits that we've received from Price Page and Company for the City of Ripon and the pension plan. The audits are completed to fulfill our requirements with the state agencies and our bonding agencies. We use our third-party auditing firm to ensure we are in compliance with the laws and regulations. They review many of our transactions, our internal controls, and other policies to form an opinion on the financial statements. The City of Ripon audit is a combination of all of the finances of the city. And then, as always, to make the audit easier to understand, I do put together a staff report, which is in your city council packet, that gives a high-level financial summary of our fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. If you want more detailed information, you can read the management discussion and analysis, which is part of the audit. And for further detail, you can actually dig into the actual financial statements. No action is required tonight. We will bring back resolutions to accept both of the audits at the December meeting. With that,
So
I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I read it. Is there going to be any changes or is that it?
There should not be any. If so, there will be minor changes, and I will point those out to you guys for
Okay,
next month if
all
there
right.
are.
Turned out good. Thank you. You and your staff. Any questions? Okay, no action. I was just seeing if there was any questions. Okay, so now let's move on to 3B. San Joaquin One Voice Advocacy. If the city is interested in sending a representative or representatives to participate in 2024 One Voice trip, please designate and approve the city's representative. Daniel DeGraff and Kevin Werner, did I hear you guys volunteer?
When is it?
It
May 5th
is.
and something.
Yeah.
May 5th and 6th or something, isn't it? 5th through the 9th.
Yeah, I put on my calendar.
May 5th through the 9th?
I think, see how it gets as we get a little bit closer, but this last year was probably one of the most effective and very productive One Voice trips we've been to, I think. So,
Good, okay.
I know
Well,
some days-
they're building on the success of last year with this year, so it's gonna be a lot the same.
So,
Well, last year you didn't do a lot of Zoom like you did the year
no, it was
before,
all
right?
in person.
Yeah, that's
and,
good.
The format was different, and I think it was more efficient.
Good.
It went better.
Okay.
Better representation, I think they're doing it the way we did it, so.
So you and Mr. Warner. I know you didn't volunteer, but I saw you shake your
We don't
head.
need him to volunteer.
Told, right?
Do we
Okay,
need a motion for that?
yes.
And if you're gonna make a motion, just make it, it's one council member and our city manager tentatively me. If you're gonna make it.
So moved.
Okay, can you,
Second.
Can you give me the vote thing, please? Jane? Okay, there we go.
You have a good
It's a good trip.
I heard it was an absolute definite yes from you is what I heard. Okay, department heads. Chief, what do we got?
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report.
Nothing? Everything's going just hunky-dory?
So far, so good.
Good. Guy?
Nothing to report.
Nothing. Ken?
We will be having a planning commission meeting coming up this
Wow.
Monday on the 20th. So if you guys, would like some entertainment that night, come on out.
Yeah. James?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, two quick things. Our October water usage, we were at 118 million gallons. We were 12.7% lower than our 2013 numbers and 2.5% lower than our 2022 numbers. We are down to our 1 day a week watering schedule, and then our free brush pickup or annual free brush pickup is underway. That'll go through January 7th.
We handing out a lot of water tickets?
I've got September's numbers here. Actually, we had 50 violations. All of them were contacted. We've got 5 penalty assessments for September's. I don't have October's finalized numbers yet. But I will report those at December's meeting.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Terpstra? Mr. Werner?
Nothing to report.
Mr. DeGraff?
I will just say, I don't know, we don't check our mail all the time, but we did get the green can mail flyer. Glad that went out. And I don't know if you've got any comments or questions from public at all on that, or anybody screaming at you yet? Not yet. Okay, so good. Other than that, thank you to the 4 of you for being here and a couple other public comments. We appreciate you coming in and listening to us. You got to have something to say though more often. So, and there's a few rows in front of you. You guys can move to the front too. But thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Mr. Euchre?
Nothing.
Vice Mayor Zuber?
I have nothing to report.
2 things. We had last Saturday was Veterans Day event, and it turned out really good. And the other thing I want to bring up is that every year the Board of Supervisors has an event to recognize a Veteran of the Year. Each supervisor gets their Veteran of the Year. And our supervisor is Robert Rickman. And this year, I don't think Rickman's ever been on the list. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this year Steve Verver was recognized. It was a really nice event up in Stockton that we had. And I just want to read a little bit. Rickman went on, but I'm just going to read some highlights. Well, there's so much here. Steve was born and raised in Ripon. He enlisted out of the Manteca office in 1991 under the delayed entry program. He left there's a lot more, but I'm just giving you some highlights. He left active duty in 1997 and enlisted in the U.S. Naval Reserves. He was a Navy range instructor, Cat 3 line coach, NCGI, certified classroom instructor for advanced courses, NCGI, operations leading petty officer, embarkment leading petty officer. He oversaw the CB Combat Warfare Qualifications Program for NMCB-18, deployed with NMCB-15 in Afghanistan, conducted route clearance, clearing IEDs, and road repair, along with other things. He retired in May 2021 with 22 years combined active duty and reserve time. Currently is a sergeant with the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department. He's also American Legion Post Commander for Post 190 and the Junior Vice Commander for Ripon VFW Post 1051. He also served on Congressman Harder's Veteran Advisory Committee. He's also assistant coaching with track and field at the Ripon High School. Graduated from California State Stanislaus Political Science cum laude in 2003. He's serving on the Ripon Little League Executive Board for 2 years from 2021 to 2023. He was a commander of the Sons of the American Legion from 2021 to 2023, and as you know, he's on our Planning Commission. Let me just read a few of the awards. Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal 2 times, Army Achievement Medal, Combat Action Ribbon, Navy Battle E 5 times, Meritorious Unit Citation, National Defense Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal 1, Bronze Star, NATO IASF Medal, Overseas Service Ribbon 2 times, GWOT Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal 5 times, Navy Reserve Meritorious Service Medal 5 times, Expert Rifle Medal, Expert Pistol Medal, Letter of Commendation 1-Star Admiral, Letter of Appreciation Commanding Officer, NOSC Sacramento Sailor of the Quarter 2 times, American Legion Post 74 Public Safety Officer of the Year 2015, Correctional Emergency Response Team Operator of the Year, Stanislaus County. Congratulations. Now, would you like to say a few words? Okay. That's a lot shorter than what you said up in Stockton. Anyway, congratulations, well deserved. Okay, anything else? What? No, anything else? No?